Good morning everyone, today we're going to be talking about what to do for the next 2 weeks until the next big patch rolls in. But before we jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So the very first thing I want to address is if you are feeling burnt out from the game, it's perfectly fine to play a different game and just take a break from NGS. However, this video is made for the players who want to play NGS, but they don't know what to do anymore. They're like, I'm max level, I'm fully geared up, or I don't want to gear up even further. What is there left to farm for in the game? Is there any point in farming anymore? And well, I'm here to tell you that there is a reason to farm. However, you're kind of farming for the future. The reason I say this is because we know for a fact we're getting new armors and new weapons. So obviously we are going to need to re-augment all of these new armors as well as these new weapons. And on top of that, we also know, as always, there's going to be some new AC scratches. So there's going to be new fashion items and there's going to be new collaborations, especially since next month is going to be the Niji Sanji collaboration. So you might need some Meseta. It never hurts to have more Meseta. That is the one lesson I learned from playing this game for 3 years plus. It's you can never have too many resources. Always when I felt like, oh, I'm super rich, I've got so much resources, and then the next thing I try to upgrade something or I try to buy a couple fashion pieces and my wealth just dissipates. So it's like poof, it's gone. All my money, all my resources just disappear into the ether. It's very, very easy to overspend and to spend all of your resources very, very quickly. So in my books, I always try to over farm. I want to make sure that I have more than enough money. I want to make sure that I have more than enough materials as well as resources so that I can, I can overspend and go crazy with all these crazy video ideas that I have, and without breaking the bank and going absolutely bankrupt. And so the very first thing I want to talk about is, of course, Meseta. As you can see over here, I have 126 million Meseta. Some people might be like, Kero, that is a lot of money. A lot of people might be like, Kero, that's nothing. Well, something that a lot of people might not have realized is when you access the storage from the terminal over here, there's an option over here called store/retrieve and Meseta. Now, depositing your Meseta here doesn't actually do anything. You don't get any extra interest or anything over time, but you can just store Meseta there so that when people look at your screen when you're streaming and stuff like that, they don't see all of your Meseta. And over here, you can actually see that I stored another 100 million Meseta. I can pull that all out and boom, I have 226 million Meseta now. However, I don't like to do that because I tend to overspend if I do that. So what I tend to do is whenever I hit the 100 million mark, I just put them into the bank so that whenever I'm looking at my money, I'm not like, oh, I've got so much money, I should just buy some fashion pieces. And it kind of keeps my desire sensor low so that I don't constantly spend all of my Meseta irresponsibly. And so that's how I keep my wealth management in check. However, a lot of people are going to be asking, all right, Carol, nice flex, nice money. Where did you get it? How did you get it? And well, it's going to be the augments right now. So when we go check the player shop right now, and if we check under materials of top sellers, you can see these are the capsules that are selling for a lot of money. A great example is Grand Dreadkeeper. You can see the average price was 678,000. However, when we click into it, you can see the price has risen to 824,000. This is a huge increase. So, Grand Dreadkeepers are going up in price. Another great example is the HAL Finales. 1.1 million is the average price. You click on it, look, it's at 1.3, 1.4 million. So again, it's trending upwards. The prices are going up. And then of course we can look at the Lux HAL Finale. Average price 6.2 million. However, it's actually selling for 7.2, 7.4, 7.5 million. It goes up to 7.5 incredibly quickly. There's only 2 capsules that are cheaper than that. And you can see that the average price is at around 7.5 to 7. Oh my god, it goes up very, very crazily fast. So Lux HAL Finale might be something you might want to look into, or at the very least you might want to look into how to make a Lux HAL Finale. And as we can see, a Lux HAL Finale actually requires 10 Foundia capsules as well as 5 HAL Finales. So now we know why the HAL Finale prices have gone up so much. It's simply because the Lux HAL Finale price has gone up. Keep in mind that these building parts for these capsules are going to go up if the capsule itself rises in value. So if the Lux HAL Finale drops in price, for example, then the HAL Finale prices as well as the Foundia prices are also going to drop. And that's just simple economics. However, the Lux Hell Finale is not the only high-end capsule. There is the Gladius Soul as well. Gladius Soul, we need Starro Souls, we need Dual Fusias, we need Irati Soul 4s. Well, the Dual Fusia is not a tradable item, you can only get this from Duel Quest. Starro Souls actually require you to farm in PSE combat zones and kill starless enemies, and then the Irati Soul, you have to get this from the Urgent Quest or from the triggers. So you can see over here that the Gladius Soul's average price is 1 million, and it's also trending upwards. We're going to 1.1 million already. And so maybe that might be something you want to farm for. Now, you don't actually have to craft the Gladius Soul to sell it. If you're unable to farm, for example, the Duel Quest, you can farm the other parts of the Gladius Soul and sell that on the market instead, because those components are also going to go up in price if the Gladius Soul is worth more money and is upward trending. Another great example is Gigas Maste, average price 500,000. Click on this. Okay, this one is trending downwards now, because you can see that the average price was 500,000. However, if we look at the prices now, they're at 445,000. So Gigas Maste might not be something worth investing your time in right now. Or what you can do is you can start farming for all of these parts and wait for it to go on an upward trend and then sell your capsules then. So there are plenty of ways to make money right now. However, it just requires you to actually do the things that players don't want to do, because it requires a lot of farming, it requires a lot of dual questing, it requires a lot of the nitty-gritty, boring stuff that a lot of people don't like to do. A lot of people prefer the glorious stuff, the ones where you fight Malevolent, Darkfall's Aegis, Darkfall's Solus, you get a Flugelguard weapon, you sell it for 30 million, 35 million, and boom, you cash out and you're super rich. People prefer this content over the slow and steady way of like, oh, I make 1 million Meseta every hour, but it's a very boring farm and I'm just farming mindlessly over and over and over. However, the thing I want to point out about farming for capsules is this is a consistent way to make money. Every hour you're going to make X amount of money. Versus farming for a Flugelguard weapon, you might be here for 10 hours, 20 hours, 50 hours. You don't know when the Flugelguard weapon is going to drop. It's purely RNG, so you might get rich incredibly quickly, or you might end up being incredibly unlucky and spending tens of hours farming for a Flugelguard weapon to drop, only to get like a low value one. Like let's say that you get like the Wired Lances or something that people don't really want. As we can see over here, Wired Lances are currently going for 8 million or 9 million over here, because just nobody's really buying them. So that is definitely something that you need to be a little bit careful of. You might invest tens of hours here and you finally get a Flugelguard weapon to drop only to realize that it's only worth 10 million or something really low. That might be, it's a kind of kick in the butt. However, with the capsules, you know for a fact you're constantly making money at a consistent rate, and that way you have some sort of guarantee of like, okay, the game is sort of respecting my time, because the more time I put into it, the more Meseta I'm gonna make. And that is why I kind of juggle between these two. For the big value items, the boss killing stuff, I usually do one run of Darkfall Solus, Darkfall's Aegis, as well as the Lucille Exploration and the limited time quest. The reason I do that is because it's actually the dailies. So if you look over here, I tasks and my dailies completed, all of these dailies over here, they require you to do the limited time quest, they require you to do Lucille Exploration, a little bit of combat zone farming. And so I finish all of these, and then I also complete Leah May's side quest over here for the extra growth mint over here. That's extra 90 growth mint. This one requires you to do a Halfia Lake Interception Part 2. So this is Malevolent DFA or Darkfall's Aegis, and this one is Sign of the Planet Breaker. This one's Malevolent Darkfall Solus. So I do one run of these every single day because these are daily resettables. And then the rest of the time, I'm just kind of farming Duel Quest over and over and over, or I'm farming for other parts that will allow me to craft all of the different high-end capsules. So again, that is going to be the Lux Hal Finale, the Gladius Soul, the regular Hal Finale, High El Domina, High Ret Domina, Grand Dreadkeeper, Gigas Maste. All of these capsules over here have a lot of value. However, it's just an absolute pain in the butt to farm for, especially Grand Dreadkeeper over here, having to farm for these silly Fusia capsules. Even though it doesn't take that long, I complete a run in under 2 minutes per run. However, it only gives me 3 every 2 minutes. So in order to craft 1 Dread Keeper, we're looking at 12 minutes of my time if I'm ultra efficient and loading screens, and you add all of that together, let's round it up to 15 minutes. So that means every hour I can only craft 4 of these Grand Dread Keepers. However, on top of that, I also need the regular Dread Keeper 5s. Luckily, I did farm a metric butt ton of these before when there was the Captain spawn and the Rappy spawns and all of that stuff. But that is also something that you might want to look into, because I think those prices have actually gone up. If we look at the Dread Keepers now, let us go here. Let's do Dread Keeper 5. So you can see that, yeah, they've gone up a little bit. They've gone up to 63,000 now. They were down to 20,000 at the lowest point I've seen them, and they're just bouncing back up simply because no one is farming veterans anymore. And so, the supply is slowly but surely drying out, and people are realizing that, oh, I need these capsules to craft my Grand Dread Keepers. And again, let's look at the average price of our Grand Dread Keeper, 678,000. However, the actual price is 825,000. It's trending upwards. The prices of Grand Dread Keepers are going up, so naturally the regular price of Dread Keeper 5 is also going to go up, because it's part of the essential building blocks in order to make Grand Dread Keeper. And so this is how you're going to make money. Depending on how your gear is and what level of farming you can do, you just have to kind of see, oh, what niche do I fill in? So for example, you just saw this video and you're like, okay, Karo says Grand Dread Keeper prices are going up, so I want to use Grand Dread Keeper as my money maker. But let's say that you don't have Duel Quest Phase 3 gear. You don't want to re-augment your gear and your weapon just to run the Duel Quest Phase 3, and you're like, no, that's too much investment. I don't want to do that. Then the next best thing is to farm for Dread Keeper 5s. Well, it just so happens nobody's doing it because they don't want to do it anymore, because there's no incentive to really farm for veteran enemies. But you can go out of your way and you can farm the veteran enemies. You can get a group of friends, or you can get a group of random people, and you can start farming these Dread enemies to get these Dread Keeper 5s to throw them onto the market, and that's the niche that you're filling. So depending on how strong your character is, you can fill these different niches and make your money off that. Now, you might be asking, Karo, who the heck is going to be buying my Dread Keeper 5s? Well, it's the people that are actually farming the Duel Quest that are going to be buying your Dread Keeper 5s. They're going to craft the Grand Dread Keeper and throw them onto the market to make a profit. So the TLDR is basically the higher gear you have, or the more powerful gear you have, the more money you're gonna make, because people with very low tier gear are only gonna be able to farm for the entry level stuff. For Grand Dread Keeper, if you don't have good gear, you're just gonna be farming for Dread Keeper 5. The high red Dominas, you have access to everything over here. However, I do believe most people are probably just gonna go with the Alno Noth over here, because Retem Alnoth is a lot easier to farm than Makid lower level. And so depending on what gear level you have is kind of going to determine how much money you're going to make per hour, because the stronger you are and the better gear that you have, the more different game modes you have access to, and that way you can kind of hop between whatever you want, and it'll just make the game a little bit more fun in my personal opinion, because you can just farm a little bit of Duel Quest when you get bored of that, you can farm for your Irati Souls when you get bored of that, farm for Starl Souls, and you can just keep changing up the different game modes to keep things fresh. Versus if you don't have very good gear, you're kind of stuck doing the same thing over and over and over, and over a long period of time, a lot of people are just kind of going to burn themselves out, because they're going to be like, wow, this is awfully boring, I don't want to do this anymore, and they just kind of quit the game. However, something that I do need to warn everyone is, like Grand Dread Keeper, for example, if you want these Fusia capsules, like Duel Quest Phase 3, you might be farming a metric butt ton of this, and it does get boring very, very quickly. So what I tend to do in order to keep things interesting is I try to optimize each run. I try to get better at the fight. I try to learn the rotations. I try to learn how to min-max, how to make the run even faster. So at the moment, I believe my fastest time on Duel Quest Phase 3 is like 1 minute 48 seconds, I think. I wonder if I can check it from here. And yes, it tells me right here, as you can see right here, this is Duel Quest Phase 3, and my personal best time as Braver is 1 minute and 48 seconds. So I kind of treat this as like a small little challenge, as a time attack. I'm like, okay, how can I improve my run? How do I get even better? How do I min-max this even more? And that just kind of keeps it a little bit more interesting, as I am fighting the same boss over and over and over, and it also keeps my sanity. However, you don't have to farm like that. If you just want to have it on the main monitor and like have Netflix running on the second monitor and just kind of like autopiloting it, it's perfectly fine as well, especially if you have a full set of the Duel Quest gear, it's pretty easy to get an S rank. You can just kind of autopilot it and you're gonna be fine. Remember, it's as long as you beat it in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you get an S rank. So, you know, you have plenty of time. It's not gonna be too difficult, especially if you have the gear. So, yeah, there's that. So in conclusion, you can farm for better gear so that you can make more money later down the line, or you can focus on making money now. However, you will be limited to the different farming methods depending on your gear. The better gear you have, the more different modes that you have to farm for in order to make profit. The lower gear you have, the more limited you're gonna be. So if you want the most flexibility and the most flavors of different things to do, then I do strongly encourage people to focus on their gear to get stronger so that they can farm all the different things. However, again, this is up to you. It's all up to personal preference. If you're just farming PSE combat zones over and over and over for hours on end and you don't get sick of it, then that's perfectly fine. You don't need the best god tier gear in order to do that. However, if you're speed running Darkfall Soulless or Darkfall Ages and you want to be the most efficient as possible and, you know, clear times of under 10 minutes, then yes, you are going to need some really crazy gear. So depending on what type of game mode and what type of player you are, you just kind of have to adjust your gear and play to your personal play style. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to the more time you spent in the game farming, the more money you're going to make. That's kind of the end all be all of NGS at the moment. Okay?
Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.